Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. With looking this slump that I'm on, the slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad, back with you. Toadstool Sports, Saturday morning, November 22nd. Thanks for everybody who hung out for the college football show last night. I gave up 4 plays for today there. I will reiterate them at the end of the show, and hopefully I get the show done in a decent amount of time. College basketball, I mean, it's not as heavy as it usually is on a Saturday, but we obviously have some. I'm going to add 3 college basketball plays. I'm going to add 1 NHL play. That's a full NHL slate, basically, because it's Saturday. There's a lot of NHL, but only one thing I really like, and it's in one of the afternoon games. And then I have an NBA night game. I'm going to give out 1 NBA play. I think it's at night. Charles, what's up? Thanks for hanging out again. Jeffrey, what's up? Thanks for hanging out again, everybody. Yesterday wound up being a 6-2 day on the show, and we started out 0-2, and then everything started going better, although the middle 2 games there, like after we were 0-2, those next 2 basketball games, I mean, this is the importance of the number, man, because those things were razor thin. If you got it at the number that I gave out on the show, which was not the one that I actually put up on the banner, but like verbally, I was like, this number is actually this now, and then I put it in the description as what I gave it out at, like, verbally. Those won, but barely, so hopefully you guys came away with that. If they didn't win, I mean, 4-4 is a losing day, except maybe you wound up slightly winning because of the Trailblazers covering as an underdog, because I always mention put a little bit of that bet on the money line, man. In that case, I would have recommended 10% because it was a single-digit underdog, so that's what I would have said about that one. Or if you pushed on Canisius at 3, like, hopefully you at least got the 3 on that. Then I guess it was, what would it have been? 4-3 and could have been 4-3-1 or no 5-3. Yeah, wait, what? I don't even. Yeah, 4-3-1 or yeah. It would have been 5-2-1. I guess, right? Yeah, 5-2-1 might have been what you did, or I guess there was a possibility of 4-3-1 if you didn't get the number on App State. Although when it drops, I recommend doing it on the money line instead. Suns and Nuggets. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I believe I had both of those games correct. Yes, that is good. My NBA reads have been excellent, which hopefully continues because I do have 1 play in the NBA. I don't love the NBA board today, though. So yesterday, Yale did not cover. Yale was looking okay as they extended their lead to like 9 at the end of the first half, thinking, all right, like, second half usually a little bit higher scoring. They could, push the lead, get this done, but that is not what happened. They had a bad second half, so they won, but they didn't come close to covering in the end. Wisconsin can, I don't know, kiss my ass, I guess, because that one was never going to happen. Well, I mean, I don't want to say never. I mean, they were within 10 fairly late in the game, so there was a chance, I guess, that they could go on a run and tighten the game up, but that didn't happen. They lost by double digits. That wasn't close. App State gave it out at what did I give it out at? I think I gave it out as 1.5. Actually, I think I did change the banners too because I see them here. App State won by 2, so hopefully you got the 1.5. Or when it's college basketball, like I said, a lot of the professionals will tell you that if you have a -1, -1.5, or -2 favorite, it's actually more advantageous to go with the money line. So that would have worked out as well if you did that. Canisius won by exactly 3. That was a difficult one. That was a low-scoring game, dude. Like, they did have a lead of about 7 or maybe 8 at one point in the game close to halftime, but it was never more than that. It was a low-scoring game. Really dangerous with 2 bad offenses laying any number of points. But if you laid the 2.5, you got it. If you played the money line, you got it. A 3 would have been a push. The line did close at 3.5, though. So hopefully you didn't have that one. And then it started getting way easier as Texas A&M won in a blowout. They covered the 23 with pretty much no difficulty. Once they started expanding that lead, it was over. I think they won by over 30. San Jose State won by double digits as well, so they covered. I think they won by about 14, 12 maybe, or whatever it was. So that was a nice, easy win. And then we had the Portland Trailblazers getting the outright win against the Golden State Warriors. So that worked out well as well. Wasn't necessarily expecting an outright win there, but obviously I'll take it. That was nice. That gave us a little bit of money line action there. And then the Boston Bruins came through as well with an overtime outright win. So if you did the split bet, like I was talking about, you at least were going to push at the very least once it went into overtime because they were going to only lose by 1 at the worst. But they won, so that's why I got my Bruins hat on. Plus, they're my team, so we're going to rep it. They came through. Let's go into today, man. Not a huge college basketball slate, but it is big. I mean, it's college basketball. There's always something big going on. Got to pay attention because a lot of these games are in weird venues and stuff. You do have Wagner and Georgetown kick off the slate at noon on ESPN+. Georgetown undefeated still in the Big East. They're coming off a nice win over ACC Clemson, although I think Clemson's got to be a little bit down this year from where they were the last couple of years. That's still a big win for Georgetown, and they do have Dayton up next, so possible spot here where they just don't take Wagner totally seriously and overlook them. Wagner not having a win yet. Wagner, they lost by 1 in that last game, and they covered against us on the show against UMBC last weekend on Sunday, I think. So that irritated me. Wagner has not even played at home yet, so they are battle-tested on the road, although Georgetown will be either the best or second best team they face so far. Probably second best, yeah, because VCU is the best that they played so far. There's a potential that Wagner can come within this number, man. It's up to 25 from 23.5. I would lean towards taking the points here. 50% of the tickets, 87% of the cash on Wagner. So, I mean, it's, again, you don't want to put too much weight into these reads, the market reads early in the day. Wagner plays very, very slow, though, as we know, and I think Georgetown speeds it up to some extent. Well, they're a mid-tempo team, but yeah, I would still look to take the points. I just think the spot is such that Georgetown just might, try to get in, get out. It's a very low total, too, although it's gone up a little bit, but 140, low total, so it makes more sense to take a lot of points there as well. But not going to make it a play, obviously. We're going to start with the best bets already because I'm going to give out a play here. In the Boston games, I'm already 0-1 in these Boston games here, but hopefully we're going to get this one right. We're going to take Boston University +4. I know if I want to do it here, I have to go offshore. The line's already moving. Harvard is down from 6 to 4 here. Total is low, down 136. So, again, I like taking points with low totals. So that's, another thing. A low total makes every point worth a little bit more. This is at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, not televised. You could probably find a stream of it if you really want. But I think Harvard is in a bad spot. And I also think BU, they consider themselves to be a littler brother than Harvard in the Boston area. I think the hierarchy kind of goes BC is at the top just because that's the way that it is. They're in the ACC. Then I think Harvard is actually next. In basketball. I mean, they're in the Ivy. The Ivy is better than BU's in the Patriot, and then you got Northeastern in the Colonial. So it probably goes Northeastern, then BU. BU probably considers themselves to be the littlest of all of them. Harvard didn't get it done for us when they played the other Boston littler brother against Northeastern at home, so that wasn't good. But we're going against Harvard this time, though. This game, by the way, it is on NESN. So if you're up in the Boston area, you can watch it on NESN. This is not in Boston, though, I don't think. Yeah, this is at Mohegan Sun. So this is it's a neutral site game because it's not on either college's campus. So there is that as well. But Harvard's coming off a tough game, dude. Like, I know both teams are going to kind of show up for this, but I think this looks like a sandwich spot that Harvard is in here. Harvard, they just went to Penn State, undefeated Big Ten team, 12.5-point underdogs, and Harvard, they put up a fight in this game, man. I mean, this game was close. They were losing early on. They took the lead going into halftime, fell behind again, retook the lead again. They had the lead late in the game, into like the later half of the second half, basically never went away. I mean, they were still within one possession in the final 2 minutes of the game. Harvard basically took Penn State right to the wire, man. So now Harvard off of that, coming back home from Pennsylvania or coming to Connecticut. I don't love it, man. And up next, they got to face the biggest brother in Boston, BC, Boston College, ACC team. So it is possible they're going to look ahead to that a little bit too. So I think the game sets up better for BU. I think it means more to BU. BU just went down to New York and lost to Columbia. Pretty ugly. Columbia was the favorite. I mean, BU's pretty bad. But, yeah, I mean, that's it, basically. I think it's a sandwich that Harvard is in. Yes, Harvard is the better team, but they're not significantly better. I think Ken Baum's numbers are kind of right in line with what this spread is telling you. Harvard also plays really slow, 327th in tempo, so that's also not really conducive to covering as a favorite, a low-tempo team like that. Although I am going to go with one of those teams in a little bit. BU plays even slower. BU is one of the fifth slowest teams in all of college basketball, and both teams are somewhat high in the luck index, so I think that kind of evens out as well. I know BU bad defensively too, but I think the spot sets up for it. I think BU might be able to come within that number. I'm saying that they should because I'm giving it out as a play. So that's one college basketball play there. All right. Long Island is having to go to Illinois. Illinois is coming off their first loss of the season, a tough game against Alabama. We took a loss on that game. I mean, Illinois was a fast-paced game. Both teams like to play fast. So Illinois could be a little bit tired here. Illinois, they tried to come back. They almost were able to come back. They didn't do it. They fell short. And I talk about how a team, when they're taking their first loss, a team can be hung over into the next game. And in addition to that, that was a huge game, so that can also create a hangover effect. So I don't like the spot for Illinois. I would really hate it if they had this UConn game or Tennessee or Ohio State coming up right after this. But they do have Rio Grande Valley in the middle there, so it's not really a look-ahead spot yet, but I still think it's a massive hangover spot. Long Island is not a terrible team. They've been battle-tested a little bit so far. They're coming off a loss on the road, although both of their losses have come on the road, although it's not unexpected, but they did lose at Fordham in their last game. Not a great game for Long Island in that one. They were an underdog, but only 4.5. I mean, it was a game where I thought Long Island would step it up because Fordham, I think they consider Fordham to be a little bit of a bigger brother in that area, but Long Island had a terrible shooting game in this game, man. 33% from the field, 7% from three. 7. So that's an outlier. Like, there's got to be some progression back to a mean there. I don't think that's going to happen again. Although I know Illinois, they're so much better. They could possibly still name the score here if they really care about it. But I don't think they do. I still think it's kind of a hangover spot. I'm not going to give this out as a play, but Illinois up from 33 to 34.5. I would take the points with Long Island in that one if I was going to play it. And Long Island, the other good thing, because Illinois likes to play fast, well, Long Island already played IUPUI. That was a winner we had on the show with Long Island beating IUPUI or IU Indy, who are now like the fastest tempo team in the entire nation. Although, of course, that's not going to necessarily prepare you for Illinois because Illinois is just a way better team, especially defensively. But still, Long Island did get their pace pushed to the limit by IUPUI there at the very least. And I think Long Island also plays fast. Yeah, they're 71st in tempo. Ken Baum has them as the 5th team overall in luck, though. So he has Long Island very lucky so far. Could go with an over in that game too, although Illinois, I mean, maybe the over will manifest in the defense, but I don't know. To some extent, because it's not a big game for Illinois, they might actually not go full throttle and not go full tempo there. The total did drop a little bit to 161. Although if both teams are really going to show up, the over might make sense. But because Illinois might not have reason to do it, then maybe not. UMass Lowell and St. Peter's. I'm going to give out a play. St. Peter's -7. Hopefully you can get the 7 on this. This line is moving up. It's already gone up to 8, so I apologize for that. The 7 is the key number. I mean, if you want to use this as a money line parlay piece, you could do that. If you want to lay the 8, you could still do it. I mean, I think Ken Bum doesn't have them winning by quite this much, and the total's not that high at like 150. St. Peter's does not play fast, but I think this is a bad spot for UMass Lowell. And UMass Lowell is terrible this year, dude. I mean, we're looking at 2 really bad teams here. And yes, I know St. Peter's plays really slow, 339th. UMass Lowell actually tries to play faster, so St. Peter's will try to slow it down. But UMass Lowell plays no defense. They're bottom 6, bottom 5, whatever on Ken Pom, and all of D1 in defensive efficiency. So this UMass Lowell team, very bad, even though, yes, I see they're very close to the bottom in luck. So I know St. Peter's is higher in luck, so sometimes I don't want to, buck Ken Pom's luck rankings there. I'm still going to do it here, though, because I think the spot's really bad for UMass Lowell. I mean, yes, UMass Lowell, they shouldn't be as bad as they look so far. They played most of their games on the road, but this is another road game. And in their last game, UMass Lowell just went to Bradley. Well, first of all, they hung with Wake Forest for about a half in the game prior to that at Wake Forest. A loser for us on the show because UMass Lowell couldn't even cover the 31 or whatever, even though they gave us one good half, which is usually enough to cover a huge number like that. It still wasn't. Then UMass Lowell turned around and they had to fly to Peoria, Illinois to play Bradley, and they were 21.5-point underdogs in this game, and they could have won the game potentially. UMass Lowell was winning this game for most of the second half, and then they fell completely flat, starting with about 6 minutes left. Then went on, they were up 2, and then they didn't score for a period of 3 minutes and fell behind by 12, and then that was the end of it. Brutal. So UMass Lowell almost pulled off the upset there against Bradley, who is one of the better teams in the Missouri Valley and was a huge favorite there. I just don't know how UMass Lowell is going to bounce back from that right away, man. I mean, it seems like a hangover spot to me. They do have a Massachusetts game up next against Stonehill, where I know Stonehill's really, really, bad. I mean, they're probably the least brother of all the Massachusetts schools in Division I, but still, I don't know, man. I just don't know what UMass Lowell is going to have in this game. St. Peter's, they're at least 1-0 at home. They beat Fairleigh Dickinson, and they did cover this number against Fairleigh Dickinson. They won by 10, so that was their only home game. St. Peter's somewhat battle-tested. I mean, they faced Seton Hall, VCU, weren't horrible. They were not horrible in those games. They didn't get embarrassed. Now they're back at home. I think you're going to get more focus here. They're coming off a loss to Delaware, so their travel is actually a lot less, too. St. Peter's has not left, the mid-Atlantic area, let's say, for the most part, mid-Atlantic / Northeast. So coming back from Delaware, a lot easier than UMass Lowell coming back from Illinois. And I think UMass Lowell actually has one fewer day off, too. So it sets up a lot better to me for St. Peter's. That's what we're going to do. And the money seems like it's agreeing with it because the number keeps going up. So hopefully you get the best number there. Yeah, the Keymaster. 7 is at least a little bit less key in basketball than it is in football, at the very least. But because you could argue that 8 is kind of also a key number because teams will intentionally foul when they're down 6 too, as we found out the hard way. But it's very rare that I'll lose a bet where I have a +7.5, and it's because a team intentionally fouls down 6. That happened with what was it? Cal Poly against Montana. Ugh. All right, Central Michigan at Marquette. This is actually at Marquette, so some of these games are indeed at these home arenas. Marquette's coming off a couple of difficult games, man. They played pretty tough against both Maryland and Dayton. Now they're coming off those games, although I know they did get upset by Dayton. So sometimes when a team has an upset pulled against them, they will show up in the next game, but I'm not sure that Marquette will because those are both pretty big games, and they do have Oklahoma next as well, so they might overlook this not very good Central Michigan MAC team here. Central Michigan's coming off getting embarrassed by Northern Kentucky, which I think was in Central Michigan too, just ridiculous. Central Michigan lost this game horribly. Yeah, it was at Central Michigan. Central Michigan was a 4.5-point favorite, and they lost the game by 24. So they look like they're going to be in a bounce-back spot here. Northern Kentucky shot the lights out in this game. Central Michigan had a ton of turnovers, -8 in turnovers, 19-11. Northern Kentucky, 53% from the field and 48% from three. Those look like some outliers. So if I was going to play this game, I would take Central Michigan plus the points. The money seems to agree. Marquette's up from 22.5 to 24. 50% of the tickets, 73% of the cash on Central Michigan. So the money is agreeing with Central Michigan. That's what I would do in that game. Not going to play it, though. Matt, what's up, man? St. Bonaventure, yes. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Dude, no sleep for me, man. No sleep, yeah, for the degenerates, I guess. But yes, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Did the Bonnies lose at North Carolina? I don't even know. I haven't been paying that much attention to every single game. All right, we have Cleveland State at Kent State. These two teams do not like each other because they're both in the state of Ohio, and they already matched up once in West Virginia in that tournament there where Kent State didn't play particularly well in the game, but they won against Cleveland State. Kent State was an 11.5-point favorite, and they came close to losing the game. Cleveland State covered, so I could see this going both ways. You could argue that it's a revenge spot for Cleveland State, quick revenge, so they're going to have more motivation here. That could certainly be true. Plus, I think they consider themselves to be a littler brother to Kent State in Ohio. Kent State, they might consider this game to be big, too, because they just didn't play well against Cleveland State in that tournament, so they might want to play a little bit better. Kent is up to a 15.5-point favorite. Seems a little bit high, given, they were -11.5 in a neutral, and probably give Kent State about 3 for home court, so the line does seem slightly high. It's gone up from 13.5 to 15.5. Yeah, I would probably look to still take the points with Cleveland State here. But we're looking at a very high total, though, up to 175. Enormous total in this game. An over might actually make sense in this game. I know the other game was very high scoring as well and landed in the 190s, which might indicate that you don't want to play the over, but I don't think I would want to be on an under here because you got two fast tempo teams here. Both teams are in the top 70 in tempo, so that's part of the reason why that's the case. Cleveland State is also one of the most atrocious defenses in all of college basketball. So, again, yeah, a little hesitation with wanting to take the points with Cleveland State because if it's going to be that high scoring of a game, it's going to be easier for Kent State to cover the number. Over might still make sense in that game, though. Yes, correct. No Sleep Till Whatever, all those different songs. No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Beastie Boys. No Rest for the Wicked is what I was referencing. The Cage the Elephant, is that who that is? Oh, they play them on Tuesday? All right, interesting. Maybe I'll talk about it when we get to it on Tuesday. All right, next up, here's my final play. We're already going to have my last college basketball play. We're going to take the points with NC Central, plus 28.5. I know this is ugly. So all of our college basketball is done in the afternoon. This is a fade of Dayton. I know this is actually at Dayton, but Dayton just pulled off that upset that I just mentioned against Marquette, man. That was a big win for Dayton. That was their first win of the season against a power conference team. They go into Marquette and they beat them. Yeah, huge win for Dayton. If you look at what happened in this game, Marquette shot horribly, 38% from the field, 29% from three. So that's why another reason to hesitate to fade Marquette today, by the way, is that Marquette's going to progress back to some sort of mean after such a miserable shooting performance. But meanwhile, Dayton, on the other hand, they shot really well in this game. 53% from the field, 41% from three. So I think there's going to be some regression from Dayton here. Both teams turned it over a ton in that game for whatever reason. Maybe not a good sign for Dayton that they turned it over that much, but this game also went into overtime. So a little bit more exertion on the part of Dayton there, which was, when was this game? It was on the 19th, so it wasn't that long ago either. Now they're playing this NC Central team. They probably just will completely overlook. And then up next, they do have Georgetown, which is going to be a bigger game. Big East team, man. So this is a Big East sandwich that Dayton is in, man. Probably some, I mean, I don't know, for the Big East, what do we eat? I mean, Big East up here, it's going to be, an Italian sandwich. Maybe that's what we're looking at here. Nice, spicy Italian that NC Central is in here. NC Central, I know they've been bad on the road, but they are battle-tested, dude. Look at their schedule so far. Basically, all their games, all their Division I games have been on the road, and they lost to NC State, Virginia. App State was the easiest opponent they faced, and I know they still got blown out in that game by 20+. And then UNC in their last game. But Dayton, I think Dayton is not as good as NC State, Virginia, or North Carolina. So Dayton is only better than App State, I would say, at this point. I think NC Central at least is going to be game for this, man, because they've been very battle-tested. So they're not going to be intimidated because they played all these different games on the road here. They're coming off a win against a non-Division I team, which I think will help give them some momentum into this game. And the other thing I really like about this is that Dayton plays extremely slow, so that's not as conducive to covering a number. I'm not extremely slow, but 254th in tempo, so they're a slow-paced team. And they don't play as good offensively as they do, or as well offensively as they do defensively. They're more of a defense-oriented team, so that's not a good setup for a team when you're asking them to cover a massive spread like this. They're also high in Ken Bum's luck index at 55th. That's not exactly good. And let me see, NC Central. Hold on. Come on. For NC Central, I know they're like a bottom 20 team here. Yeah, they're higher in luck index, but like I pointed out, they faced the 7th most difficult schedule so far. I know it didn't work out when I said the same thing about Jackson State, but I'm saying it here anyway. And NC Central also likes to play at a slow pace, so they'll be in the type of game that they want to be in, which is a slow-paced game, which also means points are going to be more at a premium. The total in this game, let me see, is quite low at 147, so it makes more sense to take the points. It looks like you can get even more points now. Maybe I'll adjust it to what it is during the show here. 29 now. Low total, again, makes more sense to grab the points. NC Central, man, hopefully they stay within that number. I mean, they can lose by quite a bit and still cover that. So, yeah, the money never sleeps. I love spicy Italian subs as well. I'm Italian, dude. I like all the Italian food. The spicy Italian sub that's an upper tier sandwich, man. We have some really good ones. If you go to like some of the like markets like that are in the North End where the Italians are in Boston, you get some really good Italian sandwiches there. Really, really good stuff. All right. Go on the Boston food tour again. I don't want to waste that much time, though. We do have some of these tournaments still going on. Green Bay and UMass are playing in the Virgin Islands, which is, Jeffrey Epstein's island probably is considered to be one of them. UMass took a loss to Charleston by 4 in the first game of this tournament. Green Bay also lost in the first game. So this is the loser bracket. Green Bay covered against us. I think both those games were yesterday. Green Bay put up another fight as a huge underdog against Yale. UMass lost, I think, as a favorite in the game against Charleston. Let me see. Were they a favorite? No. Charleston was 3.5-point favorite. Never mind. I thought Charleston was a little bit more down this year than they are, but still, Green Bay put up such a performance yesterday as a huge underdog. I would lean to UMass in this game. They are the better team, although the money's disagreeing. They're down from 7.5 to 6.5. Don't really see the percentages fleshed out yet. It's a pretty low total, which makes more sense to take the points, but I would probably still lay it with UMass. Like Green Bay, I mean, they put up, again, a big performance against Yale yesterday, so I don't know what they're going to have left in the tank there. So that's what I have to say about that. That Maryland Eastern Shore versus Canisius matchup yesterday was in the Queens Classic in Buffalo, which I think is actually being hosted by Canisius. But this game, Binghamton is going to be up there against Maryland Eastern Shore. Binghamton also more local to Buffalo than because they're in Binghamton, New York or whatever. So they're in upstate New York, so they're closer to Buffalo than Maryland Eastern Shore is. They're going to probably want to represent in this game as well. Binghamton did not play yesterday either, I don't believe. So Binghamton's more rested. They got a win against a non-Division I team coming into this one. So I like Binghamton in this one. But the problem is they're already up from 3-9. I don't even know what happened, dude. Like, is this all just because Maryland Eastern Shore played yesterday? Or is Maryland Eastern Shore, is their entire team injured? Like, what is going on? I don't know what's going on with this number, dude. Like, I can't really find injury information on teams like Maryland Eastern Shore. So, I mean, if you have more information, I mean, have at it. But I think with the line being that high now at 9 and the total unbelievably low at 128.5, I don't think you can lay it, though. Even though at that original price of 3, I would have said, yeah, Binghamton makes sense here. At 9, I don't see it, man. Looks like an overreaction, whatever happened in the market there. So, no thank you. On what? Gottlieb? Is that Doug Gottlieb? I'm not a fan either. You want the UMass money line, maybe in like a parlay or something. Z, what's up, man? Z Suki, what's up, man? All right, yeah. But yeah, I don't have much of an opinion. I mean, I don't like Gottlieb. I don't like many of the talking heads, dude. I really don't. When you listen to these guys talk about basketball, oh God, who's the guy? There's one guy that like makes sense when he's talking about college basketball from all the analysts that are on the panel, and I forget who it is now. Oh God, who is it? I'll try to remember. But there's one guy I'm like, yeah, he makes a lot. Oh, it's Jay Wright, the former coach of Villanova. He's like the only guy on those panels who actually says things that make sense and knows what he's talking about. It's crazy. None of the other people know anything. And yeah, Jay Wright's the only guy who knows stuff. Yeah. All right. By the way, I think he kind of looks like George Clooney. You know, he's kind of hot. Providence at Penn State. Well, not at Penn State because this is at Mohegan Sun. So this is actually in that same... This is in the same tournament that those Boston teams are in, I'm pretty sure. So Penn State kind of an outlier here, which this makes even less sense because that game between Penn State and Harvard was actually at Penn State. So, but now they're both involved in these Mohegan Sun games. I don't know, very strange. Providence should have a little bit of a home crowd edge here, you would think, because it's in Connecticut. So they don't have to travel far for this. Penn State is... actually an underdog here too, which is pretty interesting. I mean, Providence is probably getting a little bit extra on the number because they're close to home, but it looks pretty weird to have a 5-0 Penn State team getting points, getting 4.5 against Providence. So when I see a line like that, I'm going to tend to look towards the favorite because it just looks a little bit weird. But Providence has not stepped up well in class, man. They lost to Virginia Tech on a neutral, and then they lost in Colorado. But you remember I gave out Colorado as a play in that game because it was Providence's first true road game going into elevation, and Colorado was in some refocused spot coming off an ugly performance in the previous game. So Colorado got it done for us. This will be different at least because Providence is playing close to home here. They do have Wisconsin next, but I don't know that Providence is going to overlook an undefeated Big Ten team here, so I do expect them to show up. Penn State probably will show up as well because they didn't play well against Harvard, as I mentioned in that game. Penn State almost lost as a huge favorite, so that's reason to refocus as well. So both teams in spots where I expect them to focus. The money's coming in on Providence. I'm not going to disagree with it just because the line just looks like it's begging you to take the points with Penn State. Like, why would the team with multiple losses, be favored over Penn State? And obviously, it's because Penn State hasn't faced any power conference teams yet, and Providence has already faced 2. So Providence has faced a more difficult schedule, and those were Providence's 2 losses. Although, again, I know it doesn't mean they haven't stepped up well in class. And, Virginia Tech and Colorado are not elite teams. Let's just put it that way. So some worries there. I would lean to Providence. Not a play for me, but some concerns with it. But yeah, 60% of tickets, 90% of the cash coming in on Providence. Mark Lawrence leans to Kansas. I like Kansas, like I said. Louisville, I leaned against Louisville, right? I like SMU in that one, but I think the line is a bit too high. Now, Louisville, I just don't understand what motivation they have left here. I like Temple, as I pointed out. Temple is a stronger opinion for me. Stanford, I agree with Stanford as well, actually. I didn't talk about it last night, but I do agree with that one as well. Which I forget exactly what the setup is with that. I can talk about that real quick, I guess, if you want. College football interlude. I mean, it's a big game for both teams because it's Cal and Stanford. But Cal is already bowl eligible, which is at least big somewhat for them. And Cal is coming back from Louisville, and they upset Louisville in the last game. So I think the spot does set up better for Stanford, although Stanford is flying back cross country as well from UNC, although they might have had a bye. Yeah, Stanford went into the bye on a 3-game losing streak, so the bye should help Stanford a little bit because they went into the bye on such a loss streak. Cal is also coming out of a bye, so these teams are flying cross country off of a bye, but Cal, again, they pulled off that crazy upset at Louisville coming back home, so I agree it sets up better for Stanford, even though it's a big rivalry. Both teams will want to show up, but Stanford also, they're not even going to a bowl, so this game, I know they have Notre Dame next to, but they might treat this game like a bowl game, man, because it is a big rivalry, and Cal will be playing in a bowl this year. So, yeah, I agree with Stanford in that game. I didn't even talk about it last night because it just wasn't totally on my radar, although I looked at the game. But, yes, I agree with Stanford. And I don't remember what the line was on that game either, but, yeah, what is the line on that? I'll look real quick. It is Stanford is getting 3.5 basically at home. So, yeah, you'd be able to take points with them too. Okay. What else do we have here? We have Duquesne and Northeastern are playing in Akron, Ohio at LeBron Arena. I don't know what's going on with this game. I just thought it was interesting. They're playing in Akron. No idea why. Don't know what it is. It's not even listed. Like, there's not even a header here as, oh, this is some cool tournament. No, it's just, let's play in Akron for no reason. Which I think helps Duquesne a little bit because Duquesne's in Pittsburgh, so they're closer geographically to where this game's going to be played. They're definitely also the better team. They're down from 9.5 to 8.5. I don't really have an opinion on this game, though. I just thought it was interesting. They're playing in Akron, which doesn't make any sense. I don't think there's really any like situational setup that leads me, to lean one way or the other, really. Duquesne is coming off, I believe, winning in that tournament thing, and I guess they beat Loyola Maryland. What am I saying? I thought they were in that, but that was in Duquesne, yeah. Because I thought Duquesne was kind of in the mix in that Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia round robin thing that was going on, but that wasn't part of that, so I don't know. I mean, I would lean to Duquesne. They're the better team. I don't know why the line dropped like that. Don't really have an opinion, though. And then we have Niagara and Howard are playing at Cameron Indoor. Duke is hosting whatever this tournament is. The Brotherhood Run. Okay. Yeah. Whatever it is. I don't know. Sounds kind of gay. But, I mean, I think there is an advantage somewhat for Niagara in this game because Niagara already played in this arena. They just lost to Duke. And, yeah, they got absolutely annihilated by Duke. I mean, there's no surprise there. But that means Niagara is familiar with this venue, though. So I think that gives them an edge over Howard coming into this one because Howard hasn't played yet in the venue. Even though, yeah, it was a game against Duke, but it was like completely out of reach. The money is coming in on Howard early, up from 2.5 to 3.5, so they're actually considered better than Niagara. But I think I would lean to taking the points with Niagara. It is also a low total, 142.5. Both teams pretty pitiful offensively, so yeah, I mean, again, I think being familiar with the venue is somewhat of a deal there. We do have the Daytona Beach thing. I think I accidentally on my Instagram video said that Southern Indiana play was in the Virgin Islands. No, it was in Daytona, whatever. Some tropical location that these schools get to go out to. Where I think sometimes when these teams go out to these tropical locations, I think sometimes the bigger schools, like if it's a bigger school up north, they might get distracted. Like, hey, let's go to the beach, This is Daytona Beach. Although with these lesser schools, I don't think that's the case as much. This is UIC and Southern Indiana playing here. UIC coming off a pretty decent performance, only losing by 10 to High Point. High Point, definitely the better of those two teams. But we did get the cover with Southern Indiana as well, which was 2 days ago. I think both of those games were 2 days ago against Incarnate Word. So both teams are coming off, I believe, a cover of a pretty similar margin there. So I think, again, in that case, you just default to the better team there. The better team is Illinois-Chicago. They're a 10-point favorite, though. But I would still probably lay it, actually. Southern Indiana's really bad. I know I took them in the previous game, but I don't know. The game is kind of even between, like the situation's kind of even out. I think that's just the way that it goes. I would probably lay it with UIC. even though I think they're a slow-paced team, though, so I don't think they are really that equipped to, where is UIC? Come on. Or are they Illinois, Chicago? Yeah, they are. Actually, they play mid-tempo, 154th, so I was wrong about that. So that will help them out a little bit as far as covering. UT Martin and Prairie View are playing in Pensacola. I don't know what this is either. The Pensacola Invitational. Too many neutral site games, man. I'm trying to get through these all really quick. UT Martin's coming off a pretty good performance against Florida State, which, by the way, I was correct about Florida State yesterday. They did cover. I left that one off my card. It was close to being a consideration for me a play. They did cover after this bad performance, which is why I liked Florida State yesterday, because they didn't play well against UT Martin, but UT Martin did play pretty well. UT Martin was still just kind of hanging around in this game. They were within single digits with 5 minutes left in the game after they were close for basically the entire first half. So they put up a nice effort in this one. So I would probably lean to Prairie View in this game, even though they're a really, really bad team. UT Martin's up from 8 to 8.5. I would probably take the points, though, with UT Martin coming off that big performance against Florida State, but not really a huge opinion there. We do have UC Santa Barbara playing at Nevada. This was kind of interesting because Santa Barbara lost as a home favorite, but it was in a big game against an undefeated Loyola Marymount team in overtime. So not necessarily a good spot coming off of that, even though Nevada's kind of considered to be a bigger conference team because they're in the Mountain West, although they're kind of down this year. So Santa Barbara, it was also their first loss of the season, so that can kind of hang you over into the next game, although I don't really think that they're going to overlook Nevada, though, even though they are coming off a tough game and a tough loss. For Nevada, they're coming off another bad performance, dude. They lost at home to UC Davis. Nevada was a 12.5-point favorite. Nevada's been a home favorite of double digits 3 times and failed to cover in the last 3 times that they've been a double-digit home favorite, which are their last 3 home games. They didn't cover any of them, including losing the one for us against Southern Illinois. They didn't lose outright, but they didn't cover, and they had to go to overtime to even win. So this Nevada team might actually be overvalued in the market, man. When it's one game, it's a fluke, and then you want to, look to fade that result. When it's 2 games, still, I mean, you could have 2 kind of outliers. When it's 3 games, I just don't know, man. This Nevada team might actually be bad. And then they have Washington next, which might be a look-ahead spot, too. So, I don't know. I don't want Nevada here. Even though they were horrible in their last game, you would think they would bounce back. And UC Santa Barbara played a much tougher game. The money's somewhat coming in on Nevada for now, from 5-5 with juice. I mean, I guess I would still lean that way, but Nevada's just playing so badly, continuously now. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like they're a repeat offender, man. Their recidivism rate is ridiculously high right now, man. So I don't know. I just don't trust them. I don't know what else I have to say about that. And then we do have Virgin Islands. We also have Iona and Oregon State playing. They're in the winner's bracket, I believe. Or no, they're in the loser's bracket. My mistake. Iona lost to Akron. Akron's quite good, man. That was Iona's first loss of the season. Sometimes I talk about how that first loss will hang you over. Oregon State, took a really ugly loss to Evansville. Oregon State was a favorite, although not by that much because they're not that good either. But that's still an ugly loss. So I don't know. I think Oregon State, I kind of expect them to show up better in this one. And that game was, of course, coming off a big game for them against Oregon, that being their first loss. But now it's Iona's turn to be in the spot where they're coming off their first loss. So I would lean with Oregon State here. They're up from 3 to 4.5, although the money's starting to come back on Iona. Iona's not a bad team. I mean, they're one of the better teams in the MAAC. 67% of tickets, only 64% of the cash on Oregon State. So the money's starting to come back on Iona. I don't really agree with it, though. I would probably lay it with Oregon State if I was going to play it. And they have the worst record, yet they have the better they're the favorite, so that is an indicator of something. The odds makers are telling you Oregon State's a slightly better team. The only other thing I might say is that because Oregon State is still that former Pac-12 team, maybe a team like Iona will still get up for a game against a name like that. We do have Sioux Falls, South Dakota hosting San Francisco and Minnesota. This is an interesting game, man. We're Minnesota. They're a Big East team. They've only taken one loss, but they've faced an easy schedule, and their only good opponent that they faced, Missouri, they lost the game handily. So this is, I don't know, man. This Minnesota team might be bad. They should have had a bit of a bounce back after they played badly against Green Bay, and they didn't. They played really poorly again against Chicago State, who's a really bad team. So I don't know, man. In one way, I would say Minnesota should be more focused after that to bounce back from that. But on the other hand, they look bad, and San Francisco probably is going to show up in this game because San Francisco, they know they're facing one of the bigger brother, or not a bigger brother, they're facing one of the bigger conference teams here. Although San Francisco did try to step up in class, and they did lose to Memphis, so that was a true road game. This one is not. And interestingly, the odds makers are telling you San Francisco is actually the better team, sitting at a 2-point favorite. Although the money is starting to come in on Minnesota, and it is a low total at 140. 86% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on Minnesota. I think San Francisco was a 3-point favorite earlier this morning, and now they're back down to 2. So money has come in on Minnesota. It is really weird to see a West Coast Conference team being a favorite against a Big Ten team, though. So that is something to note. San Francisco is a pretty solid team. So just something to note there. I mean, I guess I would still lean towards Minnesota just because they're coming off such an ugly game, but I don't love it. And then we have Cal State Fullerton and St. Thomas Tommies. St. Thomas, they're pretty good, man, playing in this Portland tournament that's going on there. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that other than that St. Thomas is the better team, and they're actually an 11-point favorite. Although money coming back in on Fullerton, 57% of tickets, 96% of the cash on them. So some money coming back on the Fullerton side there. Don't know what else to say about it, but I think St. Thomas, I mean, they are the better team, and I think they're still way under the radar because people just still haven't found out about that team yet. And they got Tyler Hero's brother, man. High Point and Incarnate Word are in the winner's bracket here in the in this Daytona Beach tournament here. High Point is the way better team, though, and they play faster than Incarnate Word. They're probably going to speed it up against Incarnate Word. I mean, Incarnate Word is just, they're nowhere near as good as High Point. So I would lean to High Point. They're up from 12 to 12.5. If they're able to control the pace, which seems possible because it's 161.5 on the total, which is pretty high. Expecting High Point to have a high-paced game here and a high total. So, yeah, I would lean that way, laying the points. Don't love it, though. And then we do have Johnson City, Tennessee, which I believe is, what is that? Is that Lipscomb? No, it's East Tennessee State. What am I saying? This is the East Tennessee State MTE, whatever the hell that is. East Tennessee State hosting whatever tournament this is. Morehead State's playing UL Monroe. I don't really have any thoughts on the game. It's just interesting. It's another one of these neutral site games. A lot of these tournaments here. Morehead is the better team. Up to Morehead. If you want Morehead, it's going to cost you some money, man. They're up to 5.5 with juice. I mean, they're the better team. I mean, without knowing really much else, I would probably lay it, but I don't really have a whole lot to say. And then Coastal Carolina is playing North Dakota in Macomb, Illinois. Is that how you pronounce it? Macomb? I have no idea, dude. Why is this game being played in Illinois? Absolutely no clue. All this random stuff going on. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Coastal is the better team. They're up from 2 to 3, but the money's coming back on North Dakota. 52% of tickets on Coastal, 55% of the cash taking the points with North Dakota. Don't really have a whole lot to say about the situation here. North Dakota is coming off a tougher game, though, I think, against Creighton. Coastal did just win against a bad Western Illinois team, so the spot, I think, is actually better for Coastal, but money against it, so do what you will with that information, I guess. Milwaukee and Wichita is an interesting one because both these teams are coming off pretty good performances where Milwaukee hung with Texas Tech on the road for the first half. Milwaukee was in that game for the first half, man. It looked like they might be able to stay in that game for the whole thing, but they didn't. They wound up losing, although they covered. They lost by 17, but they covered. So a good performance from Milwaukee. So I'd be looking to maybe fade Milwaukee off of that, but Wichita just took their first loss of the season in a tough game up at Boise, where they only lost by 3, and they got St. Mary's up next, so it's kind of a sandwich spot there. Sandwiched in between two teams who might very well be tournament teams. So maybe Wichita won't totally pay attention to Milwaukee. I think it's a bad spot for both teams, so I don't know, man. Wichita's down from 11.5 to 10 here, 71% of tickets, only 68% of the cash, so the money is taking the points with Milwaukee, but I don't want to do it with both teams coming up big performances. I guess Wichita's situation is worse because they did have to go all the way to Boise, and they played close the whole way against kind of a team that grinds you and slows you down. So, and Milwaukee is at least battle-tested. They faced some pretty good teams so far, so I don't know. That's what I have to say about that, I guess. VCU, I think, is in a bad spot, but they're playing a horrible Coppin State team. So I'm not really interested in doing this. But VCU did just lose by 6 at NC State as 11.5-point underdogs. VCU played them tough, man. Close call for VCU. They played well in the game. So coming off that, looks like a little bit of a hangover. And they do have South Florida next, which they probably consider to be a bigger game too. VCU probably going to overlook Coppin State here, man. Problem is Coppin State is horrendous. I mean, they are so bad, but at least they did win against a non-Division I team for their first win of the season, and that's what they're coming off of, so at least they kind of kill that losing momentum. But Coppin State is one of the absolute worst teams in the country. Ken Baum has them second worst, even worse than Arkansas Pine Bluff now, which is insane. Both these teams actually play somewhat faster tempos, too. VCU is playing really fast tempo right now. VCU is a 32.5-point favorite. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a bad spot for them, so maybe they won't have incentive to totally run the floor here. But, yeah, I would take the points with Coppin State if you forced my hand on this one, but I am not very interested in doing it. So I'm leaving it alone. Yeah, Northern Colorado is playing at Portland, I think in this Portland tournament here or whatever, the Portland Invitational. Of course, Portland is the home team here, playing at home, although they're only a 3.5-point favorite because I think they're not quite as good as their record looks. Northern Colorado's coming off a tough, close game, I think, against St. Thomas, though. So, maybe not in the greatest spot there. Excuse me, Northern Colorado's the favorite, even though it's at Portland. So Portland is actually getting points in their home arena, which looks kind of weird because they actually have the slightly better record. But the odds makers are telling you Northern Colorado's the better team, and they're up from 3.5 to 4. So in a way, it looks like it makes sense to lay the points there because the spread just looks misleading. But I want no part of it. Southern Miss is playing North Florida in Pensacola. In that Invitational. Southern Miss is the better team. They're laying 8.5 points, even though they're a below 500 team. So I think the recreational bettors are not going to want to lay 8.5 points with a team that's below 500. But the odds makers are telling you that's what you should do here. And this game is close to North Florida. I mean, it might even be at their, I don't know if this is in their home arena or not, but for North Florida, I mean, they're somewhere up in that area. Or no, I guess they play in Jacksonville, never mind, so they're not that close. They're not as close as I thought. This is in Pensacola, but I think the spot is probably better for Southern Miss now that I think about it. Southern Miss isn't really that far away. I don't know. Going way out to the panhandle there for North Florida, but whatever. The odds makers are telling you Southern Miss is the better team. I don't disagree with that. They're up from 6 to 11, though. So at the point where the lines move 5 points, it looks like it's time to start maybe coming back on North Florida. 50% of the tickets are on Southern Miss, 68% of the cash on North Florida. So the money coming back on North Florida, I think the line has gotten out of control. So line value-wise, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with North Florida line value-wise, but Southern Miss is definitely the better team. Skip it, yes. Mark Lawrence likes Tampa. I agree. Carolina, I have a hard time figuring that game out. Which game? Who's Carolina playing again? And then Atlanta, I mean, I might slightly lean that way. I disagree with Cleveland. I like the Raiders against Cleveland. I don't know how many of these are even going to make my card or anything, though. Who's Carolina playing? Why do I not remember? I know they're coming off beating Atlanta, though, so that's kind of a big win. But yes, skipping everything here. And then, Weber State is also hosting a thing. They're the home team here in Ogden. They're playing against UT Arlington. Weber State is coming off beating Campbell, which is interesting because UT Arlington just lost to that same Campbell team. So people are going to tend to want to take Weber State here, right? Because they just beat Campbell, who just beat UT Arlington. So it looks like this thing, well, oh, of course, that means that Weber State will beat UT Arlington if they beat Campbell and Campbell beat UT Arlington. That's easy, right? But the odds makers are kind of telling you something else, although the money did initially come in on Weber to drive them up from 1 to 3. But where it opened, the odds makers are telling you Weber's not even the better team because they're not even getting full home court. 75% of tickets, only 58% of the cash on Weber. So the money is coming back on UT Arlington. I agree with UT Arlington in that one. I would take the points just because of that quick common opponent transitive property thing, although you don't want to base an entire handicap on it. And then Northern Iowa's having to go out to the Pacific Coast for their first true road game, having to go out to UC Irvine. That's going to be difficult, man. Although UC Irvine might be a little bit down this year. UC Irvine's coming off a tough loss, though, in Utah Valley in high elevation. And coming back home to Northern Iowa, coming back home to face Northern Iowa. So it's a difficult spot for both teams. I still think it's worse for Northern Iowa to have to go out to the Pacific Coast for their first true road game, though. Irvine has flipped from a 1-point dog to a 2-point favorite. 79% of tickets, 91% of the cash on Irvine. So the money is saying Irvine. I don't disagree, but that's not a play for me. Let's go to NHL here. Oh, yeah, I like San Francisco in that game against Carolina. Primo's Hoagies in Chicopee. They're the best in Philly. The best, Italian sub in Philly? No way. Really? Are they are they a small... if they exist in Massachusetts, that doesn't sound like they're actually good. I don't know. The best Philly cheesesteak places are not, the big names, you know what I mean? They're places that have a name just because... they are known for doing great Philly cheesesteaks. I don't know about an Italian sub, though. We call them subs in Massachusetts, by the way. They're not hoagies up here. They're sub sandwiches. Submarine sandwiches, man. It was a small chain, the franchise. I don't know, man. I like the local joints the best, man, that just focus on one thing and do it right. All right, let's go to NHL. My only play in the NHL is in the afternoon, so I'm going to get to it pretty quick. Going to try to run through this. Columbus is at Detroit in the first game up on NHL Network at 1 p.m. Eastern. Columbus, decent record here right now, man, although I'm not sure they're as good as their record looks. They're coming off a nice overtime win against Toronto on Thursday. I don't think they're going to overlook Detroit, though. Detroit's a solid team. They have all that name recognition, all that weight behind their name. So I don't know if I'm going to say it's really like a letdown spot or anything like that. Plus, Toronto hasn't been playing that well, and it was without Matthews. So I don't think Columbus is going to overlook Detroit. Detroit coming in off a horrendous home loss, though, to the Islanders, 5-0. And I talk about that. When you lose by more than 4 goals in the NHL, you usually do bounce back from that. It is a decent spot to look for a team coming off a loss like that, especially when they're a favorite. And I think when that loss happened at home and they're also that favorite is just coming back and playing at home, I would lean to Detroit in this game. The money is saying otherwise, though. Detroit's up from -130 to -140. 64% of the tickets on them. 66% of the cash coming back on Columbus. But I don't agree with that money there. I would lean to Detroit just bouncing back from that horrific loss. They're fucked up internally. Well, here's the thing. If you look at that loss, I know we took a loss in that game. That was one of my plays, but look at the stats in this game. And you tell me that this looks like a team that lost 5-0. Detroit won 58% of the faceoffs. They out-hit the Islanders 23-8, completely out-physicaled them, and they had more shots, although part of that was because they were losing. But does that look like a team that lost 5-0? No, it does not. So something misleading there about that, man. Just bad goaltending. I don't know. But the other end of that, it's a good thing we're talking about that because segue, the Islanders looked way better in that game than what they actually were in the game. So guess what we're doing? Yeah, we're fading the Islanders. We're going to take the St. Louis Blues, who I think are an undervalued commodity right now because they haven't gotten off to a good start here. Getting them as an underdog plus 115. Yeah, we'll do it. We're fading the public, who are on the Islanders to a huge extent. 86% of the tickets, only 84% of the cash. They're up to -132 from -122. The public is on the Islanders. Again, it looks like less of the money is. I think the real money is kind of seeping in on the St. Louis side. I like this. St. Louis is on a bad losing stretch here, man. Nobody's going to want them, but they played a lot of close games at the very least. And with an underdog, you see a team that's like pushing games into overtime all over the place. That is not a bad thing because you know they're going to give you an effort and be close. I know they've played 2 overtime games in a row, but they just lost at Toronto and at Philadelphia. And now the travel from Philadelphia to Long Island or Queens or wherever, well, it's both. Queens, not that much of a travel spot here. To me, it looks like a bounce-back spot. I think you're going to get Binnington back in net here, which at least he was in net for the last win that the Blues had. But I like the Blues much more than the Islanders. I know I've gotten in some trouble trying to fade the Islanders recently because they're on a hot stretch. But, again, the public is only going to be on the Islanders because they've won 7 of their last 8 games or whatever that is. 6 of their last 7, I mean. Whereas St. Louis keeps losing. So who's going to want St. Louis here? That would be me, but let's make this an even better spot to fade the Islanders because guess what? The Islanders have been on the road since Saturday, November 8th. They've been on the road for 2 weeks, and now they're returning home from a road trip. That is a horrible spot. That's one of the longest road trips you could possibly have in any of these daily sports, and they had a great road trip, getting all those wins that I just mentioned. They took 1 loss on the entire 8-game or whatever, 7-game road trip, and it was to Colorado, the best team in the NHL. I mean, come on, man. So now they're returning home. They're going to have stuff to do back at home. St. Louis, I just don't see them paying attention to this under 500 St. Louis team. I don't like it at all. They have to play Seattle tomorrow. I know Seattle's not great, but they do have a winning record. So very, very, very bad spot for the Islanders here. Give me St. Louis, man, on the money line. That's the best hockey play. That's my only hockey play today. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? You like the Blues as well? Hell yeah. All right. I thought Jeffrey might disagree with me on that one. He keeps disagreeing with me on Detroit and whatever. All right, hell yeah. Toronto at Montreal, this is a huge game. Both teams are going to show up for this original 6 matchup. You know, these teams are geographically close. They don't like each other. They actually opened the season against each other, and Toronto won, and Toronto 5-2. So maybe Montreal will have a little bit more motivation for that reason, although Toronto's got the worst record here, so they probably have motivation for that reason. Toronto's starting a road trip, which is usually a good thing. They're coming off a fairly ugly loss to Columbus, so I know it was an overtime loss, but Columbus I just still don't think is that good of a team. So Toronto coming off of that should be focused to start a road trip. You want to start the road trip off on the right foot, plus you're playing against Montreal, so you're going to be focused. But Montreal's on a 5-game losing streak, and they just lost for us against Washington. That was one of my losers the other day on Thursday. Ugly, ugly loss for Montreal. So you got to think they're going to be really angry and be focused here as well. Both teams actually just lost to Columbus recently too. But this game, I told you, there was an empty net towards the end and then another goal after that, which the game was basically out of reach at that point, but it was close. It was 5-4 in the third period, man. So the game wasn't quite what it really appeared on the scoreboard. Washington did outshoot Montreal, but Montreal out-hit them and out-face off them by a little bit. So it wasn't really what it looked like on the scoreboard. All that being said, I mean, do I even have an opinion in this game? I would probably lean to Toronto slightly, and that's where the money is. 53% of tickets, 60% of the cash on Toronto. Montreal up from minus 130 to minus 135. You get Toronto as a little bit of an underdog there, so probably the way I would look there. This is into the night slate now. Edmonton at Florida. This is a huge revenge game for Edmonton, man. I mean, that is basically the big part of the handicap here. Edmonton hasn't played Florida yet since they lost the Stanley Cup Finals to Florida again. So you know Edmonton has this game circled, man. Edmonton, they're on a bad stretch here right now, losing 3 games in a row. They're going to show up for this game. Skinner will be back in net for this one because they used Pickard against Tampa Bay. Lost in overtime, but this has been a grueling run for Edmonton, man. They've been on the road since Wednesday, November 12th. So this is the end of the road trip, although I do think they're going to want to salvage the road trip because they're only 2-4 on the road trip, and of course it's a huge revenge spot, so they're not going to overlook Florida, but they are still playing a 3rd game in 4 days, 4th game in 6 days, 5th game in 8 days, 7th game in 11 days. That does make it really difficult, man. They played so many different games in different cities, all of them in different cities. So I think Edmonton probably should have a beef with the schedule makers that they have to play this big revenge game in a spot where they're going to be basically really tired out. So I would lean to Edmonton, but I'm worried about that, how that schedule sets up, man. So this is not going to make my card or anything like that. For Florida, they're coming off a nice win over New Jersey, although they're more rested and they're just staying at home. So that's really the problem I have with Edmonton, even though this is a massive revenge spot for them. They're just the way less rested team, so that's the issue I have with Edmonton there. Although I would still lean that way slightly. Florida, which Jeffrey, I assume, likes. Florida up from minus 120 to minus 128 to minus 130. So you're getting Edmonton as an underdog. 75% of tickets, only 72% of the cash on Florida. So Florida's public. You're fading the public if you do want Edmonton there. That is what I would do, but not that strong. All right. It's just such a bad scheduling spot for Edmonton, like the way they've had to play all these games recently. It's crazy. Okay, New Jersey at Philadelphia. I think New Jersey is in somewhat of a bad spot here because they just played Florida to the limit, man. They lost 1-0. I mean, it was an early goal in the game, I think, but it was just sitting at 1-0 the whole game. And now New Jersey's coming off that, and they got to go play Philadelphia. I mean, this is a rivalry, though. Like, New Jersey and Philadelphia, they have kind of a split fan base in that area, right? Like, Southern New Jersey roots for Philadelphia, Northern New Jersey roots for the Devils or even the Rangers. So there is that kind of local beef there. Also, maybe New Jersey doesn't totally overlook Philly for that reason, but Detroit's been the better team over Philadelphia, and Detroit is the next opponent for New Jersey. So it is kind of a difficult spot. Philly's been playing fairly well, though, at 10-6-3, although I think they're overrated right now as well. Philly's staying at home, coming off an overtime win over St. Louis, which is whatever. So I do think they will be focused for New Jersey. The fact that New Jersey is still coming off that close game against Florida, though, I would lean to Philly in this one. So there you go, Jeffrey. New Jersey up, even though I don't like the Philly teams as a Bostonian. New Jersey up from minus 107 to minus 115. As a Christian, I also don't like the Devils, though. But the money's coming back in on Philadelphia here. 68% of the tickets and 89% of the cash coming back on Philly, even though the line did move New Jersey up to minus 115. So take away whatever you want from that, man. Scott Stevens cheap shot at Lindros. Yeah, well, Philly, whoever it was on Philly basically ended Mark Savard's career when he was on the Bruins. An absolute cheap shot coming from the... I don't think Flyers fans are allowed to say anything about cheap shots with the way the Flyers have played their games, especially back in the 70s. But the Flyers basically tried to kill Mark Savard when he was on the Bruins. So I'm still pissed about that. They ended his career. And that might have been in the playoffs, too. That was just... Yeah, there was no call for that. So I'm not going to hear about any of that. All right, Seattle at Pittsburgh. Seattle playing fairly well, man, at 10-5-5. They just won against Chicago. Now they're going to Pittsburgh here, though. I don't know, man. The spot might set up a little bit better for Pittsburgh because now Pittsburgh is back at home because, Pittsburgh had to go play in Sweden. And I talked about that, how that's basically a return home spot where you might be distracted. And they had a really, really awful game, losing at home to Minnesota 5-0. So I think they bounce back from that, man. I mean, when you return home and you have a horrendous game, you do tend to bounce back from that in the next game. It'll piss you off and refocus you. But also when you lose at home that badly, you also want to bounce back from that too. The problem is it is a back-to-back for Pittsburgh because that Minnesota game was yesterday. So that's the one issue I have with it. Otherwise, I do like Pittsburgh here, although the money's coming in on Seattle. Pittsburgh down from minus 125 to minus 113. 61% of tickets, 88% of the cash coming in on Seattle. Money coming in on Seattle. I don't want to fade a team that just lost 5-0 at home, man, and they're getting to play again at home and redeem themselves. So that's what I think about that game. Tampa at Washington. I feel like this is like lightning round now. Tampa Bay Lightning. There you go. We're going lightning speed here, man, trying to get the show done. Hopefully this all makes sense, though. Washington, I mean, they look like they're kind of in a bad spot here, man. They've reeled off a few nice wins in a row, including crushing Edmonton 7-4, and then taking a one-game road trip to Montreal and crushing them 8-4, which I pointed out already. Still pissed about it. Now, yeah, they're coming back home, but it's from only a one-game road trip. But even so, those were big wins, man. And now they get Tampa, who's been a bit mediocre, although Washington did lose at Tampa the last time they played them, although they did beat them at home earlier this year. So is it really that much of a revenge spot? I don't know. I think more so, I think it's a letdown spot for Washington. That would be my read on the game. Tampa coming off beating Edmonton in overtime, though, and going on the road to Washington. So it's not a good spot for them either. They beat New Jersey and then Edmonton coming into this. So Tampa's off 2 huge wins as well. So what do we do in this game? I mean, I guess you default back to Washington because they did lose the most recent matchup between the two. Both teams are in kind of letdown spots. So Washington, I guess, is the way. They're up from minus 108 to minus 117. 60% of the cash on Washington, 50% of tickets on Tampa Bay. So the money is saying to take Washington. I'm not going to disagree with it. I think an over might be worth a look as well, with both teams maybe being tired coming off those big games that they've had. Maybe they have tired legs and they just don't play defense. 60% of tickets, 93% of the cash on the over. Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right. I got that wrong. It was the other Pennsylvania team. My apologies. You're right. It was Matt Cook. He was a complete goon, dude. Matt Cook, absolutely hated that guy. I hate the Penguins, but, man, Matt Cook, he was only on the ice just to try to injure people. That was his only role on that team. Yeah, that was bad, but I think Philly did end somebody on the Bruins' career, though. I forget who it was, though. I remember it. Like, I think it was in one of those playoff series. You can go look it up and try to find it. I swear I'm not making it up. I just got the wrong players who were involved there. It was Flyers against Bruins somewhere. I don't know. I don't remember what year it was, but it was something. But, yeah, fuck Pittsburgh, too. Fuck Matt Cook, obviously. I forgot about that guy, but, yeah, man. Ugh. All right. Ottawa and San Jose. Ottawa's coming off that nice win. We got the win with Ottawa against Anaheim, finally. Paying off, fading this Anaheim team that I think is overrated. But now this could be a letdown spot for Ottawa. Coming off that big game against Anaheim. And they do have a quick revenge game against L.A. coming up next, because they lost at home to L.A. before this road trip. So I think they do have L.A. in their sights coming up next. And this is a weird spot, because why would the schedule makers do this? Or Ottawa plays in Anaheim, then they have to go up to San Jose, then back down to L.A., and then Vegas. I mean, it doesn't totally make sense. Like, why wouldn't they go Anaheim, then L.A., then San Jose, then Vegas or something? I don't know. I don't get it. Doesn't totally make sense. So going up, to Northern California, then back down to Southern California, it's going to suck, but looks like kind of a sandwich spot, to be honest here. I don't think they're going to fully pay attention to San Jose, even though San Jose is actually playing not that poorly. San Jose coming off a nice win themselves, though, over L.A., beating Utah the game before that, both games in overtime. So the spot doesn't exactly set up that well for San Jose either, although they're at least staying at home. I think San Jose still is probably the right side in this game, though. Ottawa up from minus 155 to minus 158, 51% of tickets, 74% of the cash coming in on San Jose. So the money is coming in on the San Jose side. I won't disagree with that. You hate the Penguins? Well, we'll definitely agree there. Common enemy. Kasperitis, yeah. Penguins taking a lot of cheap shots, man. They're one of my least favorite. They're one of my most hated teams, all right? Pittsburgh and then Montreal, I hate when they're good, because that's the main Bruins rival is Montreal, so there is that. You would think it would be New York, but it's not. Pronger ended Seidenberg's career. I don't think that's the one I'm thinking about, although I kind of remember that. Yeah, I don't know. I never really was, I never really hated Pronger. I don't know. I remember him being on Anaheim, even though I'm not a fan of the Ducks right now, just because I keep trying to fade them, and they keep beating me. The Mighty Ducks. By the way, Mighty Ducks, as I mentioned from time to time, Jussie Smollett is in that movie. So there you go. Good movie, though. Emilio Estevez, man. Charlie Sheen's brother or whatever there. Emilio. One of the guys who decided not to change his name and not have sex with 400 women. I don't know if that's better or worse for Emilio. All right. Colorado at Nashville. I mean, Colorado, coming off a nice win over the Rangers. Hey, the Rangers finally lost again on the road. Rangers road dominance coming to an end, although Colorado, I mean, they're the best team in hockey right now. They're insane. Now they're starting a road trip. They do have momentum, though, and when you start a road trip with momentum, sometimes that is a good thing. I mean, Nashville has been complete ass, and Nashville is coming back from Sweden. They haven't played since coming back from Sweden. So it is technically kind of a return home spot there, and they do have Florida up next to, although they're not going to overlook Colorado. But the problem is it is a return home spot, so still kind of a bad spot for Nashville, even though they should focus here, but I don't want any part of Nashville. And we saw how bad Pittsburgh was in their return home spot from Sweden, losing 5-0. It was not good. Colorado looks like they're getting the money here, up from -210 to -218 on the road. Insane. 71% of tickets, 80% of the cash on Colorado. I agree with Colorado in that game, but, I mean, very high price tag. I don't want anything to do with it, really. But if you force me to lean, I would lean that way. You'd probably have to lay like a puck line on Colorado or get the price down by taking them to win in regulation. Since all of their regulation wins, they only have one regulation loss. So there you go. The Rangers are on the road still, but they've lost 2 straight road games now. And it's not going to be easy having to go from Colorado into Utah, back-to-back elevation games with 1 day off in between the two. It's not an easy spot for the Rangers. Utah is also coming off losing to Vegas, but that was at home, and they got kind of obliterated by Vegas. I know they do have revenge against Vegas in the next game, but I just don't think they overlooked the Rangers. Now, you know, Utah's lost 4 games in a row. That one against Vegas was a quick road trip return spot, so it was kind of a bad spot for Utah there, even though, again, the road trip wasn't that long. I kind of like Utah in this one, although the money's coming in on the Rangers, and I still don't really want to fade the Rangers as a home team, as a road team. Utah down from -125 to -112, 76% of tickets and 85% of the cash coming in on the Rangers, so the money is taking the Rangers in that one. I don't want to deal with it, man. So I will stay away. By the way, there was one game where there was a big home road dichotomy, and I forget what it was, and I forgot to mention it. It wasn't, well, the Leafs are bad on the road, so just to point that out, I guess 1-5-0 on the road, that's not a good sign for them against, which game was it, though, that I was thinking about? That's not a good sign, though, for the Leafs against Montreal. Yeah, I don't know. Tampa and Washington are Tampa's good on the road. Washington's good at home. I don't know. I don't know which game it was. But anyway, Dallas at Calgary. I mean, Dallas is the much better team, obviously. That's not saying much. Dallas coming off a win over Vancouver. They do have Edmonton next, and I know they already got their revenge against Edmonton, which is a big playoff revenge game at home, but that's still a big game against Edmonton. So, and beating Vancouver is a bigger deal too, I think. So it is possible they overlook Calgary in this spot because Calgary's just been pretty ugly here. Calgary got a nice win over Buffalo last week. I mean, I don't know how nice that really is, but they got a win at least to kind of give them some momentum here. But they are returning home from a road trip, which is difficult, although it was only a 2-game road trip. They went on the road on Tuesday. They went to Chicago and Buffalo, and now they're having to come back to Calgary. So that's not nothing. So I don't really want to take Calgary in a return home spot there, although the spot does look a little bit sandwichy for Dallas, though. So I don't like either side there. Again, with Calgary returning home, maybe they have stuff to do at home. Could be a little bit of a distraction. The money looks like it's heavily coming in on Calgary, though. Dallas down from -170 to -136, although some of that move might be because Dallas just is not going to play Ottinger today. Let me see. Looking at Dallas' schedule, Ottinger's played 3 games in a row, so I think it's very likely it's going to be DeSmith here in this one. Give Ottinger rest in this one against a weak opponent. So that's probably part of the reason why the line moves so significantly. I don't think it was all money action or all market action. 61% of tickets on Dallas, 78% of the cash coming back on Calgary. So the money pretty heavily on Calgary in that one. I won't disagree, but I don't love it either. And then Vegas is at Anaheim. You know Vegas is going to be a road favorite here because Anaheim is not as good as their record looks, as the odds makers keep telling you that. Vegas coming off a nice 4-1 win on the road against Utah. I think they'll be focused still coming into Anaheim, though, because Anaheim did just beat Vegas in Vegas back on November 8th. So there is that. For Anaheim, Anaheim took that loss at home, man, to Ottawa. And maybe after not taking a home loss for so long, maybe that will hang them over a little bit into this game. So I lean to Vegas in this one. Money agrees. Vegas up from minus 135 to minus 138. 58% of tickets, 78% of the cash on Vegas. I'm not going to play it or anything like that, but I do lean that way. All right, now we have NBA, where I am going to have one play, and I'm going against the market with my play. But I have reason for doing it unless I want to pull it off the board, but I'll look, just make sure that the injury situation is all right. I will be right back. I am going to get water here. I'm dying. My neck hurts. Man, just like last night. It's just too much, man. So hold on a second. You can look at the NBA board while I'm out there, though. I think this is every game. There's 7 games. 1 second. All right. Oh, crap. All right. NBA. Let's go. Let's get it done, baby. Whew. All right. NBA, I mean, there's not a whole lot that I like. We have Clippers at Charlotte. This game is just, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. The Clippers did just lose pretty badly to Orlando, so maybe they will bounce back from that. I mean, they've had a bad road trip, so they're still looking to win on this road trip, although they do have Cleveland tomorrow, and then they have to go out to LA, so it is possible they overlook Charlotte. So I can't get a read on what I think the Clippers are going to do here, because they could bounce back from a horrendous loss by 28 points, or they could look ahead to Cleveland. I could see it going both ways. Charlotte, they're coming off kind of an ugly loss, too. They're returning home. They went to Toronto and in Indiana, but it was a 2-game road trip, so a short road trip. Technically, it's a road trip return spot, and they do have to go out to Atlanta tomorrow, so it might be a distraction, because whatever they have to get done, they have to get done now before they fly back out. So not the greatest spot for Charlotte, really, here. I guess I'll lean to the Clippers with the market and lean towards them bouncing back, because I think the spot's a little bit more questionable for the Hornets. Clippers are the better team, which you wouldn't know it based on how bad their record is, but odds makers are telling you that too. Clippers have flipped from a 1.5-point dog to a 1-point favorite. 72% of the tickets, only 60% of the cash on the Hornets. So Hornets look like a public home underdog here, which is insane. When would that statement ever come out of your mouth? But that looks like the case there. And you know me, I tell you, you want to fade home underdogs, man. Public home underdogs you want to fade. So there's not a huge injury situation here on either side. So yeah, I'll lean to the Clippers. Next up is going to be my one play, and I don't know why the market disagrees with me. We got the Knicks money line, or it looks like you can get the Knicks at +1 now. And they're very public. I don't get it, man. 79% of tickets on the Knicks, only 68% of the cash on the Knicks, and the Magic have moved from a pick'em to a 1-point favorite. I don't see it. I don't understand why. Let's just make sure the injury situation's all right. I mean, Brunson is a game-time decision, but he played in the last game, so he's probable. He's going to play. That's what I want. Anunoby is still out, but and Banchero is still out for Orlando. I mean, those things are just not changing since, that's been the case for the last. So the Knicks had Brunson in the last game, and Banchero's been out for a bunch of games now. So there's no, change game to game here. Now, for the Knicks, I actually like how this sets up for the Knicks, because they just had a really ugly game against Dallas, man. They took that loss in Miami. They went out to Dallas. They got the win. And that was Brunson's return spot. So here's the thing. Brunson was injured. I believe he missed the game against Miami. Or he missed a couple of games, I guess. I think he missed both games against Miami, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check real quick. But yeah, so the injured player dynamics here. Yeah, he didn't play at all against Miami. So in the first game without Brunson, it went. The injured player theory worked for New York. They played well without him in the first game. They won. Then the second game without him, they lost, which is also predictable based on how the injured player theory works, because you step up your effort in that first game without him, then you don't have as much of a good effort in the next game. Plus, it was a zigzag. But the Anunoby injury that happened in the first game threw a wrench into that, even though I did like Miami in that second game. I was worried about a second injured player spot coming in with Anunoby injured. But, okay, so those all basically went to plan. Then the Knicks got Brunson back in the game against Dallas, which is a reverse injured player spot. So I talk about that. Now your star player comes back. Now, the rest of the team could kind of just mentally, they just kind of ease up a little bit, and the line value kind of shifts. And the Knicks didn't play well. They only beat this struggling Dallas team by 2. Now this is the second game with Brunson back, so I think that's a positive, because now he's back. So that second game with him back, they should be, off and running again, and they should be refocused, because that game against Dallas was ugly. And in addition to that, by the way, back on November 12th, Orlando went into New York and basically embarrassed them 124 to 107. So it's a little bit of a quick revenge spot here. I think the Knicks want this game for that reason. They want to go into Orlando and do the same thing to them. Quick road revenge here. Wasn't a whole lot to see in that game statistically. Orlando did dominate them on the boards. Yes, that is a concern, especially without Anunoby. But I still think this is the spot to do this, man. And for Orlando, yeah, I mean, they're going to show up for a game against the Knicks, but still, Orlando's coming off some huge games here, man. They went to Houston, took them into overtime. They beat Golden State coming home from that. They beat the Clippers by 28 on Thursday. Now they get the Knicks, who they did already just beat on the road, and they do have Boston up next. And the last time they faced Boston, my Boston Celtics beat them. So I don't know. I like the spot better for the Knicks here, man. Oddsmakers are still telling you the Knicks are the better team. Well, I mean, it makes sense, especially with the Magic down their best player, but that's been the case for a while. It's not an injured player spot or anything like that. We're going to go with the Knicks. The market is not agreeing with me, but my NBA tends to be pretty good, and hopefully it works out there. Atlanta at New Orleans. In this game, I mean, Atlanta, the spot looks a little bit more difficult for Atlanta. I think they're coming off some pretty difficult games against Detroit, San Antonio, although San Antonio now without Wemby. Now they're going to face this bad Pelicans team, although Atlanta, they have to play tomorrow, but it is only against Charlotte. But even so, I don't know if they're going to take New Orleans totally seriously. A 2-14 team here. I don't even know, is Zion Williamson back? I have no idea. New Orleans coming off a loss at Dallas, but that was yesterday, so that makes this difficult for New Orleans too, because they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, and the game before that they played fairly tough against Denver, so it's not really a great spot for either team here necessarily. Zion is day-to-day again here. Let's see. He did play in those games against Denver and Dallas, so I think he will play again here, but I don't know. It remains to be seen. The Hawks are an 8.5-point favorite. Don't really see the percentages yet on this one, although they're definitely going to be public. As I try to drink my water with the cap on it, I would probably lean towards taking the points with the Pelicans there, but I don't have a good read on that game at all. Washington is at the Bulls. Washington, oh man, they're off to a bad start. 1-14. Washington got obliterated, which I think destroyed Jeffrey's teaser, which is why, dude, I tell you, teasing in the NBA can't do it, man. I mean, the NBA, the points are worth way, way less in the NBA, and teasing in these dead numbers that are way north of 10 or whatever, the numbers are almost meaningless. So there's no value in the teaser there. The books are basically just stealing your money. Washington, they got crushed against Toronto. Now they're on a back-to-back. They're going to go from Toronto to Chicago. playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities. Not easy. Not an easy spot for Washington, travel-wise. But they did get embarrassed yesterday. However, the Bulls also got embarrassed, and they got embarrassed in a return home spot, and that was also yesterday. But they're staying at home, and I talk about the return home spot. It can be a distraction. You can lose focus in that game, even though it was, I thought, a spot where maybe they wouldn't lose focus necessarily because Miami's the team that eliminated them last year. But, man, Chicago had a horrible game in that game. I still leaned against Chicago in the game, but I didn't expect them to lose by 36 points. So I think Chicago's going to come out with some fierceness in this game, man. The scheduling spot actually almost sets up better for them now because, again, when a team gets embarrassed in that return home spot, they tend to come out with a lot of focus in the next game. Both teams are on the back-to-back, but Chicago is at least staying at home between the two games. They also had a day off. They're playing a third game in 5 days instead of 3 and 4, although they are playing a fourth game in 6 days. But they did have one more day off there on the 18th or whatever. So, yeah, I would lean to the Bulls in this game. They're down from 14 to 12.5, though. 98% of tickets, 99% of the cash on them. I would probably lay it, even though they're going to be public and they're laying a ton of points. But in that game, I think they're probably going to win and cover. That would be my read on that one. Yeah, Washington, they suck, dude. Oh, man. My Boston Celtics suck, though. I think that game was in your teaser. That one won, but I basically just lean to those underdogs there as far as taking the points straight up. Deep dish, yeah. The Chicago deep dish is when one of their guards throws the ball, across the court, basically, for a long, a cross-court assist. Detroit and Milwaukee is going to be one of the bigger games here, although the problem with how big this game is going to be, it's on NBA TV, but the problem is Giannis is out for Milwaukee, so that makes the game less entertaining. Detroit playing really well right now still. I don't know how much we buy it, though. Is Detroit a little bit overrated now? I don't know. They've had a lot of days off here, but when you're winning, you don't really want to have that many days off. They're coming up from Atlanta now. Having multiple days off could hurt your momentum when you're winning, man, so that's not necessarily a great thing. Maybe they'll take Milwaukee a little bit more lightly because Milwaukee is without Giannis, and Giannis was pretty much carrying the team, although Rollins has stepped in pretty nicely. He's good. At least his scoring is, almost at the level of Giannis. But Giannis he does everything, man. So it is a huge loss still. Milwaukee, I thought they would play well in the Giannis injured player spot, which was their most recent game 2 days ago against Philly. And they played decently. They went into overtime, so they could have covered that number as an underdog, but they did not. They fell short. So now coming off that game, it's the second game without Giannis. It's not really a good spot for Milwaukee here, man. But would I want to lay 8 points with Detroit on the road? No. I think that's a bit of an overreaction to Giannis being out. Although I know the overreaction comes into play in the first game the most. But Detroit up from 6 to 8, 70% of the tickets, 82% of the cash coming in on the Bucks. I guess I would lean towards taking the points of the Bucks just because I think there's no line value in laying the points of the Pistons, but I don't love it by any means. Firm, I don't know what we're talking about. A law firm. The Grizzlies at the Mavs, man, this is an ugly one. Both these teams have been playing some real ugly basketball. Grizzlies, Morant is probably still hurt, I think, because I don't know. I think the Grizzlies just don't want him in there because he's just a chemistry killer. Mavs down from 2 to 1 here, 87% of tickets on them, 74% of the cash on the Grizzlies. So the money is coming in on Memphis in this game. Pretty strong market read on Memphis. Memphis coming off killing Sacramento, but the good thing about that is it ended a long loss streak for them, so that might give them some momentum coming into this game against Dallas. Although they did just beat Dallas. Their previous win was against Dallas on November 7th at home by 14, so Dallas might remember that. And Memphis does have to play Denver next, so coming off a blowout win over Sacramento, playing a Dallas team you already beat recently, and with Denver up next, it could actually be kind of a sandwich spot for Memphis here. Dallas is coming off a win at home over New Orleans, but it was yesterday, so they're on a back-to-back, and they did play on Wednesday, a tough game against the Knicks. So the scheduling spot's not exactly great for Dallas either. I think maybe part of the reason the money's fading them is because it's the back-to-back for them. So I don't know, man. Obviously, it's a game that I have to stay away from. But, yeah, I don't even know. I guess I'll agree with the market and lean towards the Grizzlies as kind of the clinching factor, the deciding factor. But I don't know what else I would I don't know what to do with that game. So, obviously, leaving it alone. And then we have Sacramento at Denver. Sacramento coming off that ugly loss to Memphis. I mean, you lose by 41. You're going to want to bounce back from that, man, even though I know it is a third game in 4 days here, all in different cities for Sacramento. But, you have some sense of pride here, although it is going to be tough to go into elevation and play Denver. But last time Sacramento was in Denver, they only lost by 6 points. So they played them pretty tough, although that was with Sabonis, and now Sacramento is without Sabonis, unfortunately. And they're missing him because they've been pretty bad without him. But Denver has already beaten Sacramento twice. The most recent time was in Sacramento. Denver beat them by 14. So Denver's already 2-0 against Sacramento this year. So Sacramento probably does have more incentive to show up in this game to try to do something to maybe get some in-season revenge here. And that means Denver might overlook Sacramento because they've already beaten them twice, and they beat them with Sabonis. So, of course, they should be able to beat them easily without Sabonis. And for Denver, they're on a back-to-back. They're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, including a back-to-back and getting a huge win last night against Houston. That was a big win, dude. And it was one of the stupid in-season tournament games, too. Huge win against a good Houston team. Coming off that, now they do play Memphis next. Not really a look-ahead spot there, but back-to-back could be a letdown spot here. Could overlook Sacramento. I would take the points with Sacramento here. The problem is it's down from 13.5 to 11. 67% of tickets, 73% of the cash coming in on the Kings. I agree with the Kings. The problem is this number at 11. That was the number in the game with Sabonis in the lineup for Sacramento. Sacramento was an 11-point underdog, at Denver. Now Denver's lined the same with Sabonis out of the lineup. I don't know, man. Crazy as it sounds, it seems like the line, there isn't that much line value there on fading the Nuggets, even though that sounds insane. I would have expected Denver to be like a 15, 16-point favorite here. Unless maybe that means somebody's not playing for Denver. Is that what's going on here? What's going on? Aaron Gordon is out. He's already been out, but I don't see Jokic on the injury report or anything. So I don't know why this line is as low as it is. Because otherwise I would think about leaning, I was thinking about giving out the Kings as a play, but I'm just not going to do it. I don't know what's going on there. Temple basketball player caught betting against his team. Heisier Miller, I do not remember. I don't know who that is. Yeah, I did not hear anything about that. All right, that's going to do it, though, man, for today. Let's do the final college market read, and then I got to get out of here, put the show up and whatever. So college plays here. We're going to be on Delaware plus the points. Looking at that, you can get probably 18 now. The money looks like it's fine on Delaware. Of course, get the 17.5 at the very least, and I think you're good on that one because the 17 is the key number. The market read looks good on it. On Kansas, plus 3.5. That's looking good as well. I think you can get 3.5 on it still. The money is coming in that way, so that looks good. Baylor, can we get the 7 on Baylor is the question. I think you might be able to. And the money's coming back on Baylor. Let me see if you can get 7 on this right now. The market read looks good on Baylor. Hold on. So these are my plays for today in college football. Thanks again for the guys who hung out last night on that show. I'm looking right now to see if there's a 7 available. DraftKings has plus 7 at minus 112. All the other books are still at 6.5, hesitant to hit the 7. But you know what? 7 being out there at minus 112, I'm gonna do it. 7. Baylor plus 7. And hopefully the spread doesn't even come into play. Hopefully it's just an outright win for Baylor or something. And then Coastal Carolina plus 24 is the other play there. Which that market read looks still against it. And it looks like you might be able to get 24.5 now. So I would add the hook in there, obviously. If you can get the 24.5, that's a little bit better. 24 being a key number. But I just don't know why the cash looks like it's coming out in South Carolina. I don't agree with that one, obviously. Those are the plays there in college football. College basketball, we're going to have BU plus the points, St. Peter's minus the points, NC Central plus the points. Hockey, we got the Blues money line. We're going to have the Blues if they don't get there. And the Knicks going against the market. I just don't get it. You might be able to get +1 on the Knicks now, but don't know why the market read is such, because I like the Knicks in that one. And hopefully my NBA reads continue to be good, because they have been really good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Learn It's Own on Twitter. Learn It's Own on Instagram. Like, subscribe. Give me good comments on the channel here. Listen and give me good reviews on Apple and Spotify. That all helps me out as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, so that helps me out there if you go check that out. And patreon.com/LearnToToad. Bonus Uke content. You can request stuff. I know Charles has given me more. I haven't looked at them yet. I apologize. And there's a Spotify Uke feed there. That's going to do it. I got to get this up. Got to do more of the Instagram content. I'll be back tonight for the NFL show. We're already 1-0 in the NFL this week. Houston Texans kicked it off right. I'm in the money in my splash pool, picking 5 games. That was in there this week. I don't love the Sunday slate, though, man. I'm probably going to have, I don't know, at most I might wind up with 2 plays, but I got to bear down and see what I can see. See if I see anything that hasn't revealed itself to me yet for the NFL. But NFL's been on a nice run, so hopefully that continues. That's going to do it for now, but I will be back tonight with that show. Peace for now, guys.